I want to talk to you about why I think and I believe that electric vehicles will be the dominant form of mobility in Europe. But perhaps more importantly, what we need to do collaboratively to get there, and maybe have a look at some of the impacts on our lives and what will happen to perhaps business around us if that happens, and what opportunities that might open up. So first of all, I took this job 2.5 years ago working on electric vehicles in Europe. But before then, back in 2010, Nissan launched the Leaf into Europe. And these were some of the questions that we got at the time from friends, but for people working in the industry. Our dealerships asked us, well, can you charge the car in the rain? And things like that. And I guess events like here today are fantastic because they help break down the barriers and break down people's perceptions to electric vehicles. So it's really exciting to be here and to see people engaging with all sorts of electric vehicles, all sorts of electric mobility solutions. But there's still perhaps a long way to go to get people to understand that it is not a passing trend. And I think if you see the growth of electric vehicles over the last few years, you can start to see a momentum building. And indeed in Austria, we started to grow since perhaps 2015, and that growth is starting to accelerate. If we look back at what's happened in Austria and around the world in the last few years, we now have 300,000 people who have taken that first step to move to electric mobility with the Nissan Leaf and the ENV200. And the thing about them is they will never go back. And the reason they will never go back is because of their satisfaction with the product and with the experience of driving an electric vehicle. So when you have that much experience and you have that much exposure to the customer feedback, hopefully we can start putting in place in a collaborative way the building blocks to make it a dominant form of mobility in Europe. And I mentioned about Austria, well, we've had a 30% growth year on year so far from an overall industry perspective. And that's actually been held back, from my point of view, by the lack of new product onto the market. Sort of going through a phase now where manufacturers like ourselves are starting to renew our product lineups and coming with our second generation, while other manufacturers are talking about what they're going to do in 2020 and beyond. But I think it's much more about what we need to do today and what building blocks we need to put in place today. For me though, when we are starting to grow our electric mobility footprint in Europe, there's so many more opportunities that open up, and mobility will mean so much more than going from A to B or having a pleasurable drive. And electric mobility is at the core of that. Now, Nissan's take on it is in focusing on a strategy called Nissan Intelligent Mobility. And I wanted to just mention the three core pillars of that now. First of all, as you see up here, it's about intelligent power. Now this is the new Nissan Leaf, which I was lucky enough to be part of the launch of that in Japan just a few weeks ago. And this vehicle, you might be able to see a little sneak preview of it downstairs, but this vehicle will be unveiled to Europe in the coming days, and we believe it to be the first true mass-produced electric vehicle that will start breaking down some of those barriers that I talked about. But at its heart of intelligent power is a zero-emissions powertrain. Now this battery that we're putting into the vehicle today with the new Nissan Leaf is actually our 4th generation of upgraded range of the battery. And it's vital as an industry that we keep lowering the cost of the battery, increasing the range of the battery, but keeping the durability at the level that is demanded by our customers, which not everyone is doing. So the next part is intelligent driving. The more connected cars get, the more we will be able to connect our vehicles to the world around us and connect them to ourselves, to take some of the mundane moments out of driving away, and to be able to give back a little bit more freedom and safety to the customer that's driving. Just one example, from a fun perspective, the new Nissan Leaf has something called e-pedal, and other manufacturers are launching different variants of this on an electric vehicle. And it essentially means you can move to one pedal driving. Over 80% of the driving in the new Leaf you'll be able to do with one pedal. Finally, it's intelligent integration. Now, integration, I think, for most of us means connectivity with your smartphone, connectivity perhaps with what you're doing in your house around you, with your workplace. But for us, it goes beyond there, and it's about connecting yourself to the energy grid. We believe we've come up with the right way of launching different technologies, which I'll touch on in a moment, to make energy the next shareable economy and to put you in command of that power. This is absolutely vital for us because all of the things that are happening with the new Nissan Leaf introduction are happening at a time when cities are becoming much smarter and need to become much smarter to deal with many of the challenges that we have today. Air pollution, congestion, rising sort of issues with 1 million people a year dying early, prematurely, because of air pollution issues. So we need to make sure we're becoming smarter with the way we manage traffic across cities, the way we integrate our mobility across cities, and intelligent integration can be part of that solution. And I'll touch on that in a second. So the importance of doing it is not just for moving people to a car that they have a pleasurable driving experience on, but it's more of a societal benefit that we can deliver because of that. On top of that, the technologies that we're introducing with the Nissan Leaf and other products in our range are technologies that can go far beyond just delivering a pleasurable driving experience. The battery in the Nissan Leaf and the ENV200 is something that you can take out of the car and create a portable microgrid solution to bring energy to people who don't have it. And if you bring energy to people who don't have it, you can give them commerce, you can give them access to the internet, you can give them access to clean water, and you can start providing solutions beyond our borders in Europe to the world at large. And that's something, again, over the coming months and years, you'll start seeing more and more of the technology that we're putting into our electric vehicles being used in different ways to deliver different commerce solutions from a business perspective, but different societal benefits as well. So that's really nice, and it's a nice vision, it's perhaps where we want to head to and some of the things we're doing. But what's really important to us is to democratise this. We're not making electric vehicles for the few, we're making them for the many. And it is absolutely vital that we don't just consider the car itself, but we consider the customer and the overall ecosystem around us. So with that in mind, the first thing we started doing when we started selling the Nissan Leaf and the ENV200 was putting in infrastructure. We now have over 4,600 quick charging solutions across Europe for the Nissan Leaf and ENV200, which is leading by far compared to the competitors using other charging types. But it's far, far more important than that. It's also about working with customers to understand where they want to charge. Most people that drive a petrol or a diesel car waste hours of their week and their month charging or filling up their car at a petrol station. I've been to a quick charging station twice, and I've driven a Nissan Leaf since 2012. I charge at home overnight. I'm lucky enough to have off-street parking, and I charge in my office. So looking at the ecosystem for customers is much more about considering the benefits of moving to an electric vehicle and supporting the customer in accessing those benefits, such as getting time back through never having to go to a petrol station again. On top of that, I talked about integrating intelligent integration and integrating to the energy grid. So we've produced two technologies that we've launched recently. The first one is X-Storage. Now X-Storage, you'll see other examples of that down below, and I walked past a few today. Battery storage is becoming at the right cost now to start providing real benefits for renewable energy production. One of the barriers to renewable energy production is that when the wind stops blowing, people still need power. When the sun stops shining, it's sort of shining today, kind of half there, it's a bit of a problem for us if you're still trying to charge your car or you're still trying to boil a kettle. But with a storage device, you can charge that storage device whenever the sun is shining or the wind is blowing, and use it when you come home from work at the end of the day to make a cup of tea. On top of that, we have the vehicle-to-grid solution. Now this is a little bit more in pilot form, but in Denmark today, we have 10 ENV200s driving, doing a normal day job, delivering supplies for a utility company in Copenhagen. And that customer earns 40 euros of revenue per week, per van, just off the fact that he's plugging his vehicles in at the end of the day and leaving them so that they're fully charged by the next day, but leaving them to help balance the energy grid overnight. So at 5, 6 o'clock, when the peak demand is coming, all of his vans are connected up and they can start drawing and using the power reserve in the rest of the car for that peak moment. And he gets paid for that. Then overnight, when energy is cheaper, they start charging up, so they're ready to go the next morning. And it's all controlled in the power of his iPad. And that is intelligent integration. And that's why I think we can really electrify the world if we think beyond just the car and start thinking about the ecosystem around it, but do so in a collaborative way. It isn't just about the individual manufacturers working on their own. It's about working together and working the right way so that more and more customers can move to electric mobility. So EV, the dominant form of mobility in Europe. Look, time will tell. All I can say is, when I drove a Nissan Leaf for the first time in 2012, I never went back. And when 300,000 customers have driven a Nissan Leaf, I have a customer in the audience here, I think, they've never gone back. And that's not just a Nissan story. Electric mobility is significantly better for the customers, from the customers who've taken that first step. And events like this, hopefully, will help more customers that they might enter in the future. I've got a short video here that we made with the world-renowned architects Foster & Partners last year, and it gives a little bit of a glimpse of what a world might be without fuel stations and petrol and diesel cars. And I'll play that now for you.
At Nissan, we believe the future is electric. So what will the fuel station of the future look like? We think it could be this. Charged by the sun, wind and the oceans, cars could empower people to store and then distribute renewable energy. So what can we do to really shift the balance from fossil fuels to renewables? Through our battery and intelligent drive technologies, we may have some answers. With Nissan's wireless charging and universal connectivity, our vehicles could autonomously charge themselves and then repark so another vehicle on the street could use the same bay, all while you sleep. And come the morning, your house and the grid could draw energy straight from your car, powering your home as you start the day. This is not just any street, this is a smart street. The cars, houses, roads and grid are all in sync, connected. Recycled leaf batteries can be turned into smart home storage so that no clean energy goes to waste. And it doesn't stop there. With zero emission technology, when you pull up at your workplace, you could drive straight into the office. An automated parking system would whisk your car away to be recharged, or the battery could even be used to power your office. The whole city could be connected. What if clean energy was so abundant that it became a free commodity to be shared amongst the city and its people? Our cities have the power to be transformed. Places once occupied by car parks and fuel stations could be replaced by green spaces, building a cleaner, kinder urban environment for our children and our children's children. At Nissan, we want to unlock the true potential hidden in our cities, and we believe that zero emission and piloted drive technologies could be the key. What if the fuel station of the future wasn't a fuel station at all? We believe the fuel station of the future is your home, your street, your city, your car.
So perhaps it's a little bit of an evangelical look at the future, but I believe that there is a possibility to get there. But I think the only way to get there is to not focus on all of the restrictions and to put penalties on people moving and forcing people to move to electric vehicles. It's about showing them the very, very real benefits that electric mobility can bring and listening to customers and making sure that we're doing things in a way that is bringing people with us. And again, that's why it's an absolute pleasure to be here today and to walk around seeing people engaging with electric technology, electric mobility technology, because then if we can do that, the future will be electric. And I believe Nissan with our new Nissan Leaf will help it get there. Thank you.